Nobody can prove exactly how the Earth was formed, but most scientists today agree on how they think it was formed. Scientists theorize that the Earth is about one-third the age of the universe, which makes Earth about 4.5 billion years old. The Earth hasn't always been what it is now. At first, it didn't even have oceans, continents, or life. To get where it is today, the Earth has gone through a very long and slow process. I'm going to be telling you about that process in chronological order of time periods, and I will also cover the climate and life forms of the Earth during those time periods. From the time the Earth formed about 4.5 billion years ago to about 3.9 billion years ago is known as the Hadean Era. During the Hadean Era, there was no life on Earth, and it is nothing like we know the Earth as today. Much of Earth's surface during this time period was covered with volcanoes, lava, and very hot oceans that couldn't even sustain life. There wasn't much of an atmosphere at this time either. It was mostly just composed of hot carbon dioxide and other fumes from volcanoes. As the Earth's temperature cooled, it transitioned into what is known as the Archean Era. This era started about 3.9 billion years ago and ended roughly 2.5 billion years ago. During this era, the temperature of the Earth cooled down considerably and continents began to form. Another result of the overall cooling of the Earth was that the first life forms began to appear. They were just single-celled organisms, but they are very important in Earth's history because they eventually evolved into more complex organisms like humans and animals and stuff like that. When the Archean Era ended roughly 2.5 billion years ago, the Proterozoic Era began and lasted until around 540 million years ago. During this era, the single-celled organisms that the Archean Era introduced evolved into more complex multi-celled organisms such as plants and sponges. According to the University of California Museum of Paleontology's online article about the Proterozoic Era in 2009, some scientists believe that the animals first appeared during this era, but that theory isn't very widely accepted. The sponges and plants started to produce a lot of oxygen, which found its way into the atmosphere. This helped form the atmosphere that would protect life on Earth from radiation, and it's the atmosphere that the Earth still has today. Because of the atmosphere that developed in the Proterozoic Era, there was an explosion of new life forms known as the Cambrian Explosion. The Cambrian Explosion marked the beginning of the Phanerozoic Era. This era is broken down into many different parts, and it is the current era that the Earth is in. During this era, all the previously formed continents that formed merged into one supercontinent known as Pangaea. This helped evolution with all life because all land animals had access to so much land as there was no oceans to separate it. At the beginning of this era, vertebrates started to dominate the world's oceans, like sharks, different kinds of fish. Very slowly over the past 540 million years, though, life has continued to evolve from ocean to land. Things like insects, small amphibians, and small reptiles started to be seen. Slowly, these amphibians and reptiles eventually evolved into what we know as dinosaurs. The era of dinosaurs lasted quite a while until National Geographic's online article about dinosaur extinction said a very large meteor struck the Earth and wiped out almost all life forms on Earth. After this extinction event is when more commonly recognized animals like livestock, deer, rabbits, stuff like that started to appear. So to follow that, humans began to evolve and rise to the top of the food chain. This eventually leads into the world as we know it today. As you can tell, the Earth formed through a very long and slow process. It started with a very hot volcano and lava-covered Earth in the Hadean Era, cooling down, supporting basic life forms during the Archean Era, and advancing into the Proterozoic Era, where life forms started to become more advanced, and finally shifting into the Phanerozoic Era, which is the era we are in right now. Thanks.